The scars of your love remind me of us. They keep me thinking that we almost had it all. The scars of your love, they leave me breathless. I can't help feeling we could have had it all. Rolling into deep. You have my heart and soul.
Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Crastinators podcast. Happy to have you back with us again this week, and we are here once again to talk about something. My name is Guy, the best guy ever, and I'm here with my panel of esteemed internet personalities. Digi, who are you?
I'm Digibro. I wear sunglasses at night.
Jesse Wood, who are you?
I'm Endless Jess. There's a horse in my house.
Hypocrites.
I'm Hypocrite, and I make videos. No, I don't.
You do sometimes. I've seen them. Ben.
Patreon.com/Ben Saint. Saintcomics.com.
Yes.
I'm really hungover.
He makes comics. Well, good man. Okay, now, moving on. Today we are talking about a topic that's near and dear to my heart. So, what we're discussing this week is, when you're in the bathroom and you're taking a piss, it is completely appropriate to pull your pants down all the way, exposing your ass to ease the stream of urine from your dick.
Well, I just
That's
sit
what we're
down.
going
Whoa,
into.
does that-
That's
whoa,
what we're
does
talking
that
about.
happen?
That's wrong.
I
That's
was-
wrong. That's wrong.
But
That's
I
wrong.
wanted to talk about that. Okay, we'll save that for next week. What we're actually talking about this week is too deep for you. The concept of things being too deep for you, what it means, how it relates to art appreciation, how it relates to pretentiousness, all that shit. And so to start us off, I'm going to do what's becoming a tradition and read the Know Your Meme definition off of it. Oh, wait, no. The Urban Dictionary definition. Oh, fuck. I didn't have that one open.
3 deep, 5 me, dog.
That's right.
Well,
okay.
this is a timely topic because I think that everything is too deep for me.
Interesting. Okay.
So
Yeah,
we
I have
really
this.
need to figure this out. This is a big problem.
This is actually something that comes up with me a lot, but we'll talk about this later. Okay, so
if
here,
you got the green on you before listening to this podcast, you should get 2 dank 420 you.
yes,
Know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying, dog. Okay, all right. Urban Dictionary definition of too deep for you. Okay, when someone or something's artistic value goes beyond a person's perception, leaving that person lost and confused. And then on the flip side, this may be used to sound like a total douche-tard because you think you're better than everyone else, often used by hipsters.
I mean, when
It's been a long time since I've heard douche-tard.
Yeah, me
when
too.
you say something is too deep for you,
Yeah.
you don't actually mean that it's too deep. You're saying it ironically to say that the thing thinks that it's deep.
Well,
when
that
it's
is
not.
Well,
the
I've
ironic
seen it
usage of
It's
the
a
term.
dismissive
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, I've
Usually
seen it both
lobbied
ways,
at
though.
fans of something.
On 4chan, there's like half and half between people who are mocking the work by saying it's too deep for you,
Yeah.
and people who are mocking people who don't understand it by saying it's too deep for you.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, I don't think it's usually that they actually think the work is too deep.
Right. Okay. But even taking a step back from that, let's talk about what it even means to be too deep for someone. What is depth of art, and what is the correct versus wrong way to perceive something? Like Eva, right? Eva is the big anime thing people always bring up as being too deep for you.
Eva.
Yeah,
That's the
Evangelion.
first-
Evangelion.
what
First,
the fuck is Eva?
I don't know. I guess I call it Eva
I mean, I
sometimes.
get shit constantly for saying Evangelion, but I haven't heard Eva
Isn't
yet.
Evangelion the correct way to pronounce it?
In
Evangelion.
Oh, no one fucking says that shit. That's gook shit.
in,
All right.
in Fully Cooley,
Yeah.
Naota says that his dad wrote a whole book on the deep mysteries of Eva, and
And that
says,
is
Eva.
one of the best dubs of all time, and I trust their judgment.
There's also a dub for the actual show in which they also say Evangelion.
Yeah,
There you go.
That's
They
a
say
better
Eva.
primary
They
source.
say Evangelion throughout the whole series, but in the movie they say Eva for some reason.
No,
and
they
then in
say
the, and then in
Eva
the
in the movie,
rebuilds,
don't they?
go back to Ava.
I don't know.
Who
Anyway, the
cares?
I just
point
explained
is,
it to you, you
all
dumb
right,
shits.
Gibbs right. Who cares? The point is, why is that show called Too Deep for You? it's got a lot of symbolism, right? And we can talk about what Anno himself says about the show. But it's got all this symbolism. It's got all this weird imagery where it's that thing where you really have no idea what's going on. Like the episode where Shinji gets trapped in that like 2-dimensional angel or whatever, and has this whole big crisis of what the fuck's going on. Nobody even knows. And you know, how do you properly appreciate something like that? Is it an issue of
I think,
yeah, no.
I think the reason things like Ava are considered too deep is because some people see it and it's like weird, but they say that they get it. Whether they do or not is irrelevant. The fact that they say they understand it, and then a lot of other people say, I didn't get it. This thing's too deep. You know, it just it starts that sort of conversation. If it was just weird and nobody got it, nobody would say it's too deep. They'd just say it was weird. I think
that's true. That's true. And like Anno's been on record as saying like all the Christian symbology he just put in there because he thought it looked cool. So like all that stuff, I feel like a lot of people roll that into their understanding of the work and what it means.
I don't think the symbolism is what gives Ava depth.
Yeah,
I think it has
people
plenty
always.
of depth.
I'm just saying that's what people bring up a lot
fucking
of the
quote
time.
out to try and dismiss Ava as not deep. Because, Anno said that it's, the religious symbolism doesn't mean anything, so it's not deep. But that's not even the fucking point of what makes it deep in the first place. And everyone who says that it's not deep, I will take every goddamn one of you. I'll remove your fucking skin from your bones. I will put your skin on my dick like a condom and rape your mother.
I couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't agree with you more because, whereas Eva is a show that sometimes I guess suffers, maybe is not the right word, but like gets a slightly worse rap because it has something like that Christian symbolism that ultimately doesn't really mean as much as you might think it would by watching it. Then there's something on the other side, like High School of the Dead, that I think is a fantastic story and has fantastic character developments, and it gets shit on for the opposite reason, because it just shoves tits in your face the whole time. But I would argue that only makes the show stronger for what it was going for, and in no way detracts from the depth of the narrative and the characterization.
I think what it comes down to is that the depth of the piece of media or art in question is irrelevant compared to the fact that people are shallow.
And people like to say that they understand things sometimes when they themselves are kind of concocting this meaning in their own heads. Like
I think all meaning is like partially
subjective?
Concocted in your own head.
Oh, totally.
Like
yeah.
Like there's no objective like deepness to anything. It's just what you can take out of it.
Yeah,
and
I want to cut to the heart here of
please.
My whole why this whole concept bothers me. This too deep for you, right? Because on the one hand, I do think that a work can legitimately be too deep for you. I don't think that makes you wrong or makes the work wrong. It just means that it's too deep for you to comprehend.
Could you? Yeah.
Or even maybe deep isn't the right word. Maybe it's just that it's too specific for you to understand. Like if I were to write a story that was full of references to my own life that don't make sense to anyone else, and then I posted it up and no one understood it, then like it would be too deep for you, but that depth has no meaning to you, so it doesn't matter for you that it's too deep for you.
Right, and I feel like that's a lot of what comes up in like deep stories, because like ultimately things that are deep, I feel like a lot of the time what people are saying when they call it deep is like everything has the same underlying like human experience, right, is ultimately at the root of pretty much every story ever told, and it's the way that that's masked or the way that that's communicated, that's where the complexity I guess the depth comes in.
Go watch the Asterisk War Sucks Part 4, where I went in depth about that concept. But yeah, but what bothers me about this so much with the too deep for you thing, where people are like derisive of stuff for acting deep or whatever, I'm gonna posit a question. If Evangelion isn't deep, or whatever other show you think isn't deep or is pretending to be deep or is pretentious, if that show's not deep, what show is deep?
That's a good question.
Can we ask this? What is actually deep?
Can we each go around and say something that we think is deep? Think that'd be a good exercise.
I think Ava is extremely deep. Like I think if we're talking about the complexity of the narrative, the amount of like different things that everything means in the show, like where like the number of meanings that each moment or action has, or that each character has, I think it goes about as deep as any anime has ever gone, for sure. And also as deep as, like, most literature. Like, what books are everyone reading that are so fucking deep, unless it's fucking Ulysses, that Ava is just too deep for you, dog, you know?
Right.
Like, what is it? Where's this deep media?
You know,
that is
I wish I'd
supposedly out there?
concocted a list of, like, things that popular media or, like, the popular culture says is deep, just to go into it. Because
It's
really,
not
public
there,
perception is what... Yeah, right. It's all a fugazi.
I
It's,
mean,
Well, I
I
think-
think. Go on, Hippo.
Well, I was going to say, a lot of the time, like, things that are considered deep are often also considered pretentious. So
Right,
if you had
right.
a list of, like, the most pretentious stuff made
Well,
by
yeah.
a dumbass, then
If
you'd
something's
get all the
deep-
deep shit.
If something is deep, but you don't understand the depth, then you have two choices. You can admit that you are not smart enough or knowledgeable enough or whatever to grasp the depth, or you can deny that it's depth, that the thing is deep, and say that it's just fake deep, and call
right.
it, oh, it's
I'd
just
say-
pretending, it's pretentious.
I'd say that's the root of it. Podcast solved.
Yeah. Well,
That's true.
On the other hand, though, I don't think that I don't believe in pretentiousness in media.
Of course.
Like, because this argument does come up a lot where people say, like, how can a show be pretentious? And I'm like, well, I do think that you can approach something with the mindset of, I'm gonna make this as deep as possible, and then, like, go out of your way to load it with as much symbolism and as much shit as you want. And, like, I don't know if I'd say that it, like, absolutely isn't deep, but it's pretending to be, you know, but,
Well,
like...
Yeah.
Really,
I feel like you can kind of know it when you see it. When you
think-
see something like
Yeah.
that's really putting on airs
Well,
as,
I
like...
think we know it
Bioshock
when we see it
Infinite-
because we're smart. Everyone else
think
is wrong all the
That's
time.
true. Wait, let Ben
Ben,
go. I wanna hear
I'm
his
with
point.
you on
I think
this. You can already...
Bioshock Infinite is
Yes,
a good
let's
example of
rip
being
it apart,
pretentious like
please.
that, because it's got all these, like Matthew Matosis lays out. I'm pretty much just going to be paraphrasing him, but like
yeah.
it presents all these things about racism and whatever, and time travel and whatever, but it doesn't say anything about them. It just like puts them out there and like uses them as elements in the story.
Right.
And everyone said, "Oh, advanced storytelling or whatever."
Like
Yeah,
something
but
like
not really.
even something I watched just 2 days ago. I forget what Erased, this new anime this season. I think it
Yeah.
does more interesting things with time travel already. In that it really does. It's an.
I think
time
Erased
travel,
is pretentious as fuck, but we could talk about that
disagree.
on tomorrow's podcast.
Yeah, we'll do that tomorrow. But I like the way it's using it. Whether you think it succeeded or not, to me it seems like it's using it as a conduit to tell the story and has real ramifications on the characters, and it's going to explore the way that they're reacting to it, and like exploring the choices they made in their life, and you know that's the vehicle to do that with, and
Right.
I think it's effective. But you know that's
I
to
think
be
that
seen.
Bioshock Infinite is a pretty good thing to bring up because it's very easy for us to say that we've seen these themes done better elsewhere, and
Right,
this is not
right.
as deep as it's pretending to be or presenting itself as. But I know people who are like more casual gamers who played Bioshock Infinite, and when you first go to the city in Bioshock Infinite, when the game starts and you see the city laid out before you and it's all beautiful
fucking
and amazing,
mind-blowing.
It's great. It looks great.
That alone is deep, and that alone gives the game its artistic merit, regardless
I
of.
don't know. Can art can
I wouldn't
I
say
think
it's deep, but I would say it's impressive.
visuals
Well, I
are
mean,
not
like,
you know,
deep in and of
I-
themselves.
Like,
I
even
think
though
I'm-
I might not be impressed with the narrative of Bioshock Infinite, to the
Yeah.
many people I'm sure who are impressed
No.
by it, who am I
Yeah.
to say that they're not valid?
That's a great point, because
Yeah.
I have heard so many times people I've talked to say that they absolutely love Bioshock Infinite, and I myself liked it, and the more I thought about it, the more I liked it less and less. Because I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I had read Homestuck beforehand. And because I understood everything, I wasn't nearly as blown away by the things in the story,
Yeah.
and could focus more on the things that really didn't impress me. Like,
Well, let me
there's
talk
lots of plot
about
holes.
a thing about that's
Yeah.
funny about media is like okay, like if you saw just if someone just drew a picture of that city,
Yeah.
like there was no game, there was no anything, there was just a picture someone drew,
Mm-hmm.
and it was as good as, you know, how the city looks in the game, you'd probably be like, that's an 8 out of 10 drawing, that's great.
Right.
But then in the context of the game, you end up liking it less because of the other things that are related to it. But I do agree with Jesse that, like, I think that image of that city alone, like just walking out and seeing it, does speak to it speaks to the human experience, right? Because like
Sure.
there's a reason, there's a mental reason that has to do with where you are in society and everything, that like that you would see that city and think that about it, like that it would take your breath away means that it captures some kind of, you know, very deep-seated human emotion. But when you then walk through that city and it's just one long hallway until you get to a scripted sequence, then like it becomes a different thing where, like, even though as great as the art design is, and as much as that by itself would be, you know, would be a 10 out of 10, then to walk down what is a badly designed game, and then to come at it from, like, the perspective of someone who cares about game design, then you're like, okay, well, this is like a 1 out of 10 game now. And then, like, you put the 1 out of 10 and the 10 out of 10 together, and you get this 5 that suddenly you're really sour towards. But I do think that, like, I think pretentiousness in cases like this is really in the eye of the beholder, because, like, we can't really say, we can't say what the creator wanted out of it. Like, maybe in his mind, or in their minds, rather, the people who made the game, they weren't making something that special. It was just a game they worked on out of their huge illustrious career. They had a bunch of cool ideas that they threw together. It didn't necessarily come together perfectly, but they got all the ideas they wanted to share.
But see,
out
you know,
there,
what makes it pretentious to me are the attempts to do one thing, and like the putting on airs that you've achieved that goal, and then when you have failed in many other ways. Like, for example, why the fuck is the mom like a ghost? Because she's dead in this world and alive in another. Isn't that true of literally everyone in the multiverse? And like, why can Elizabeth only do these tiny little summoning things in these certain places when she has literally infinite control over the universe?
Man, I forgot about Ghost Mom. That's horrible.
Yeah.
What you're talking about, Nate, is just plot holes, but like...
No, I think they're more than plot holes. I think these are specific misunderstandings of the mechanics of their own game.
Yeah,
and
I
Those
what I'm saying is-
those things necessarily imply something's not deep, though.
Right, those are
it
failures.
shows me there's a misunderstanding of what they're trying to communicate, and that severely hampers my enjoyment.
I don't think it becomes pretentious until it's literally saying, this is deep, and then that it, like, if there was a guy, if fucking Ken Levine or whoever came on, that's who made it, right? If Ken Levine came on screen afterwards and was like, did you enjoy my masterpiece, you know, then like, then
but
that would
I'm
be
saying
one thing,
it
but
feels wrong because he says it's a masterpiece, and yet I see all these issues with it.
But he doesn't say it's a masterpiece.
If it was a 10 out of 10 perfect, if it was great, well, okay, if he doesn't say it's a masterpiece, I'm judging it by playing the game, and the game feels, I mean, that's what pretentiousness is. It feels like
I agree
better
with
than
Digi.
it is.
I don't think by playing the game you can really know what they're you can only know how the game turned out, but you can't know what their mindset was making it.
But I'm not judging them. I'm judging the piece of art, and the piece of art feels pretentious.
But
yeah,
how
I'm
can
not
you say that it's
I'm
pretentious
saying- I'm
without
just saying
knowing the
that-
mindset behind it?
Pretentious is,
I think you can tell.
I'm saying pretentious is now an emotion that you feel. It's not a property that the game has or that the developer has. It's something that you feel the game is.
I think it's similar to, like, good or bad game. Like, yes, you have to interpret it and decide how it makes you feel, whether it's pretentious or not. But I do think there are some standards that pretty much most people can agree on.
I don't agree. I don't think that whether something is pretentious or not can come. I think when you say something's pretentious, you're saying something about the work and about the person that made it.
Yeah, I think that's why the word pretentious itself is dangerous, because it's literally saying that it's pretending. You know, it's implying action on their part.
I don't understand. You guys really don't think that the work by itself implies that? You think it has to involve the creator directly?
I don't think you can say. I don't know. Maybe you can imagine some scenario.
I don't think you. I'm not saying that it's necessarily untrue that the work thinks, or that the creators think that it's better than it is.
Yeah.
But I don't think that you can make that assumption about it. I think it could just as easily have been that they had a lot of good ideas and a lot of bad ideas, and putting them next to each other made it look like they thought it was amazing. You know, it's kind of like if I made a, like, let's say I made a video where, like, I make some incredible point at one point in the video, and then at some other point I make a terrible point that kind of shits on the other one, and it sounds like I'm trying to make myself sound really smart, but I don't know what I'm talking about, when it could just as easily be true that, like, I just threw out all the ideas I had, and I knew some were good, I knew some were
you know,
bad, and I
it's-
just threw them all out
to
there,
me, to me, it seems like if you had something like, let's say, like Romeo and Juliet, to me is pretentious only in a certain sense that it acts like at the end there's like a big monologue about how like, oh, the star-crossed lovers, like there's nothing that could have been done, and yet the events of the story are these really like hammy, like, oh, he woke up, killed himself, oh, she woke up, killed herself. It's anime coincidences are what drive the plot of Romeo and Juliet in the latter portion. And
Well, yeah, that's why they were star-crossed, because fate conspired to cause their downfall.
but I don't believe in fate, so I guess that story just doesn't appeal to me. But when you see something like that, like if someone tells a big romantic story, and at like, let's just say at the end they do a thing like, oh, and love, like this was the greatest. They do like a big schmaltzy ending,
like
celebrating
Interstellar.
itself.
I was about to bring up
Interstellar is a
Interstellar.
great example. Like, oh,
I haven't
God.
actually seen it, but I know it has all these weird messages about love.
Same.
It does. It's a very and Interstellar would be a great pick for talking about this
Yeah.
though. But like, I don't think Interstellar's pretentious. I would use the word misguided.
Okay.
Like
okay.
it's the script is bad. It has a lot of plot holes. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It has some amazing scenes in it. It has some amazing cinematography. But like the parts where they talk about love being the defining force of the galaxy,
Oh,
I don't
man.
think the movie is like pretending that it knows more than it does. I just think it's incorrect. Like,
Okay.
I think there's a difference
Well, I don't
between
think that
being
makes it
pretentious and just being
pretentious.
wrong.
No,
Yeah.
that's true. It doesn't necessarily make it pretentious. That's true. But
I
I'm
guess
just
what
saying
we can
sometimes
take
I
away
think you
from,
can tell.
from that
Oh.
is that the word pretentious is just overused, and
Well,
other
that's
words...
certainly true. That's
I
certainly
think
true.
let me propose an example of something that I think maybe actually is pretentious.
Okay, cool.
Okay. When I was younger, I listened to Dream Theater. And
Oh,
they had
yeah.
an album called Metropolis Part 2, and I really liked it. And, I still think it's kind of good in some ways. However, it always irked me about it, because in the story, the guy, in the story of the album, the guy discovers that he is a reincarnation of this person who was murdered, and her murder was never solved, and he's got to go and fucking solve her murder.
So you're saying he's a
and-
trans woman. He used to be a woman, now he's a man. Okay.
And
Just-
and one of the songs in it is him sort of like opining and like reflecting on the fact that like now that he knows that he is a reincarnated person, he knows that death isn't the end and he doesn't have to fear death anymore.
Okay.
And that's cool.
Sure.
However, it's just a fucking fantasy construct in the story that happens. Like I, the viewer, it doesn't. I haven't actually learned anything. The story of the album has not actually showed me anything about the nature of life and death. So
Yeah.
it feels really cheap when this character can say, "Oh, now I don't have to worry about death." And I think, yeah, good for you, but you're living this in the world of this album, in this fantasy story. What about me? I don't get
and
anything.
And
out of this.
that reminds me so
I
much
think
of.
that by
hold on.
presenting that, I think that,
I really need to piggyback on your story, Ben.
yeah.
Because that again, I think that you could just as easily say that the story is just bad and misguided, not necessarily that it's pretentious.
Well,
However,
it seems like it thinks it's saying something about life and death,
Right.
but it hasn't actually said anything about it.
let me tell you a little anecdote about Dream Theater. I was listening to them back when I was like 15 or so.
Yeah.
Pretty much just the album Train of Thought, which came right after Metropolis Part 2. But I read an interview in a magazine called Revolver with them. It was just like a one-page thing, and the interviewer asked them something to the effect of like, why do you guys think you're not more popular than you are, or something like that. And
Oh.
Ouch. Ouch.
one of the members literally said, he said,
Too
We're
deep.
too deep
know-
for them.
Yeah.
he said there's bands like he named these by name. He said there's bands like Mastodon, Tool, and the Mars Volta who are kind of like us but not as good,
Oh
and
shit.
they're more popular. So it's kind of like people like stuff that's less good, and people don't like us because we're too good.
Oh, he said it. He
He
said it.
cracked the code.
Yep. You can't
For
be
the
that
record,
deep.
for me at the time, my three favorite bands were Mastodon, Tool, and the Mars Volta. And I just read
shit.
this like, wow! Like, this is what pretentious
How does
actually
it, how
means.
does it feel, Digi, to not like things that are good, to only like the bad things? You've become Anthony Fantano in the past.
It's like that episode of a regular show where they become so smart that no one can understand them.
Yeah.
It's like
It's
dream
like
theaters like that, but they've become so good that nobody likes them.
It's a perfect example.
I feel like, well, that's the thing though, right? Like, because what too deep for you is,
and that's
when,
exactly what this is talking about.
right? What too deep for you is when you make something that's just too much and people can't quite wrap their head around it. But I think that when it becomes pretentious is when like the creator is saying, "Oh, you're just idiots," you know, like you don't get it because you're not smart enough. It's like, well, we don't get it because we're not you, or we don't necessarily have the same life experiences required.
If any creator puts in stuff like that no one could understand because it's from their life and expects the audience to get that from just a viewing, that's pretentious, no doubt about it.
That's basically horseshoe finale.
True, but I think, well, I guess we aren't really the right judges, but we could tell what was going on, probably because we know you so well by this point. I don't know if anyone else was. I have no idea what the general audience, what it was like for an average audience member to watch Horseshoe Finale. No fucking idea. It was probably brutal.
I am a very big fan of Horseshoe Finale, and I am not unwilling to call it pretentious.
Well, I've seen a lot of people take a lot of things out of it. Some that are, I mean, like in terms of like positive feedback. Some people have taken stuff out of it that I didn't necessarily intend, but that I'm okay with them taking out of it. And some people have come closer than others to. I'm not going to say that like you don't get it, because everybody gets it to a degree, I think.
Yeah. I don't think. Yeah,
honestly,
I wouldn't call it pretentious.
I feel like there's parts of it that I don't get.
Like,
I
what?
mean, if
Well, like,
I think if I
or not so much about the finale, but the Horseshoe Saga in general. I think there are parts of it that I don't quite see the way that you.
Well, for a long time, like I've kind of dreaded people asking me to articulate it or explain it.
Sure.
Because I feel like I don't
think that's your job. Anyway.
It's not my job for one thing, and if artists knew how to communicate verbally, we wouldn't be artists in the first place.
Thank you,
that's
that's something
point.
that I've been trying to make the point of. And that's what I talked about in my Hideaki Anno video.
Yeah,
which,
exactly.
Of course,
Hideaki Anno is what I always think about when I
Have I ever told you guys that I always wanted to communicate like how much I loved Gurren Lagann, and I really think that this video was my best possible way of making those points.
That's kind of a big part of why we all do what we do.
Right. I mean, that's how I kind of justify what I do, because like there's a lot of times where I feel like this author surely understands the work himself and could explain it, except that he already did try to explain it.
With the work itself.
You know,
the work is the explanation.
I think the problem with everyone trying to like seek answers from Hideaki Anno about what Eva means is that I don't think he could do any better of a job than he did in the show.
Yeah.
You know, like he made the show to express these ideas. I don't think he's necessarily capable of expressing them a different way.
That
I
reminds
can
me-
do it a different way because you know, I don't make Evangelion. That's not what I do. I look at other people's work, I interpret it for myself, and try to help other people to you know, understand my interpretation and maybe find some, you know, grounds for their own. But like I couldn't make Eva, and I don't think Anno could make my Eva videos, you know.
Probably
I don't
true.
think he could necessarily explain why the shot compositions are all so good, or why the character arcs are so good.
I agree. I used to think, when I used to like read about, I don't know, great works of art of whatever form, and they'd be like, oh, he did this, he uses this technique, he does that thing, and I was like, wow, how do you got to know all these techniques to be a great artist? But that's not true. Those techniques, I mean, in a lot of cases, those techniques just kind of come about naturally from following your artistic inclinations and just doing what feels right.
I mean,
know what
that's
I'm talking about?
Yeah, like I'm like almost reverse engineering it with my videos, because like I haven't studied any of this from school. I watch a lot of shows and then I like go, well, the way that shot was animated made it have a lot of impact. And you know, in the case of animation, I feel like they probably have gone to school for it and they understand it, you know, but like
Hideaki Anno never like opened up a textbook and read a chapter on, you know, how to compose, I don't know, some fucking iconic scene or whatever.
Right.
Or how, you know, some technique about structuring an episode in such and such way, like the one where it cuts away from the battle and then you see the aftermath.
And
like,
and
no
they
one
don't
taught him
teach that stuff. They don't like my brother Victor is in film film school, you know, and he's watched all of like every frame of paintings videos, and he's like, why isn't this taught in school? Because we don't learn any of this. You know,
no,
like,
my
this
point
is the
is that
shit
you-
we should be learning.
What-
you
what
know?
My
is the
point is
stuff
that
that
that's
they-
not the
yeah.
kind of thing you can teach. That's the
Right.
kind of thing that has to
Well,
be
yeah.
generated creatively.
That's true. But what do they teach? What is the focus on in such, you know,
Oh,
such
just-
things?
I haven't taken the
Some
classes,
boring
so
shit.
I'm not
Like,
gonna.
this
can't
is
go in
a
depth.
4x 720 camera lens, and it goes
Right.
on
Yeah.
this.
Well, they
piece
teach
of
you more
shit.
like how to get into the industry and who to, because that's the thing.
You need 4 years of that?
You got to remember that most of the people making movies are making shitty movies.
That's true.
You know,
That's
all
true.
of them have been through college. All of them have taken the classes, but most of them are still garbage.
It's almost like there's something more important than that, you know?
Yeah.
Weird.
It's almost like creative spark is what matters the most, and understanding, having inspiration, and
Yeah.
being able to translate it into a medium that people can appreciate.
You saying something, Hip?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, if we're talking about like the communication abilities, I mean, it's pretty obvious from my own like podcasting prowess that I'm not very good at speaking. To communicate my ideas, I usually, if it comes out at all, it's from the weird videos that I make and the comedy videos.
Which
I
we
don't
all
really
love.
think- Yeah, like
I'm
I
the
don't think I'd
puns.
ever be able to get anything across through speaking and writing as much as I would through you know, my stupid
Yeah.
jokes.
But by the way, guys, Hippo is currently freezing his ass off in his retarded ass apartment that has no heat right now. So, you know, he's a real trooper for being here
What,
with
do you
us.
are you going to give me a round of applause?
give him
Yeah,
a round
round
of
of
You
applause.
do
No.
sound like you're.
Good job.
You do
You
sound like
did
you're
it.
in like
You
a
did
bunker
it.
That out.
in Russia right now.
Yeah, you sound really cold. I just, you know,
He sounds cool.
you deserve credit for doing it anyway.
Okay,
but
I don't think that was important, but thanks.
I just want to say that this topic reminds me of one that Mr. B-Tongue video where he talks about art in other words.
I don't remember that one.
You know, there are no other words, as in like if you try to explain a work of art, you're reducing it.
Right.
Well,
And yeah, which is what Digi was saying. The art itself is the explanation.
Yeah.
Which also reminds me of a quote. I'm probably going to butcher it, but it's something like, "Writing about music is like dancing about architecture."
yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah. There are no other
But
words.
what's great about the funny thing is you brought that quote up, and I've often heard that people use that quote to say like, don't write about music, you know,
Yeah.
and people rebel against that. People hate that term. People hate, or that phrase rather, because
Yeah,
they
and
see
I
it
can-
as like, oh, you're trying to, because my initial response when I heard that was, well, I'd love to see a fucking dance about architecture.
I was
but
just
now that I
gonna
think
say
about
that,
it,
yeah.
it's like I don't disagree with what he's saying. I just
But
think
it's also
that
it's not necessarily an indictment of the practice
Right,
either.
right.
right.
You know, I
So-
want to ask you guys, what?
Dancing about architecture.
I
though. Can
love
you
the idea.
imagine?
I
It would
love
be
the
fucking
idea.
awesome.
What?
I imagine it would be done to an Autechre song, and they'd have like, the guy who created Gundam, Yoshiyuki Tomino.
Yeah.
His daughter does like interpretive dance and teaches it. And if
Oh,
you
Gundam?
watch the most recent Gundam show, Reconquista NG, the most recent one that he directed, which is fucking insanity. The whole show. There's like all the eye catches are like the characters dancing. Like doing interpretive
Wow.
dance, and his daughter actually choreographed them.
Hey, that's pretty tight.
It's
I
pretty
like it.
cool.
So,
That was
guys,
a random fact.
I want to ask you guys now to
nothing to
change
do with
topic.
anything.
I like that. No, that's cool.
Although Gundam G-Reco is perfect for this because that is the most too deep for you.
Really?
No one understands it. Literally no one, because there's so much random weird symbolism that makes no sense, and like random moments of just insanity that no one gets the show. And Tomino himself like later admitted that he completely failed. He was like, I don't know why I thought this would work, or why I thought this was a
for
good
something
idea.
like this, is it in fact a case that it was in fact not too deep for you? Was simply bad?
I think it
'Cause there's an important distinction
I
there.
think it was both. Like I don't think, and the show's not necessarily like all bad, but like it's very clear that Tomino, that all of the things in the show meant something to him.
Sure.
It's just that what that meaning is not something that most people can grasp.
You know what it really is
you
at
know?
that point? It's at that point you have to like struggle with something like that between how willing are you to do the research, to like do whatever is required
Right.
to figure out what everything means versus just watch it and then move on with your life.
And like I get it on some level because I have seen a lot of Tomino's stuff, and all of it there's like a general theme of his work is chaos. Like, he presents war and the scenarios of war as this chaotic, insane thing. So, like, when you watch, like, there's a movie called Gundam F91, which is, like, pretty standalone in the continuity, and, like, the first 30 minutes of it are just, like, trying to show you how chaotic war is, and it completely, like, works and makes sense, because it's really well produced, and clearly there were people who knew what they were doing working on it, you know, and it has, like, cool ideas.
Yeah.
But then, like, he'll do the same thing in another show, but it doesn't, you don't get that it's about chaos. It just is chaos. So you don't know what it's about.
Yeah, you know, the thing is, I feel like the term is probably applied most by the people who, like, take the time least to understand whatever it is they're talking about. And, like, they're obviously not qualified to make such a judgment, and yet that's kind of what sticks with things. Like you're saying, with this war shit.
Anti-intellectual about art.
That's right.
People hate when you say that art is deep. They're like, oh, it's all just supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
Games are just fun. Games are only allowed to be fun.
Maybe we
They're
should
not,
talk
they
about...
Don't they don't need depth.
We should probably talk about the stigma there. Why is it people are so uncomfortable with things being outside of their grasp? Is it just they're offended by the idea that they aren't able to appreciate it? Does that just offend them and they have this reaction?
Intellectual cowardice.
Personally, a lot of things I find are too deep for me, but I enjoy trying to figure them out anyway. So I think the reason a lot of people might hate, like, the idea of things being intellectual is because generally very intellectual people are snobbish.
Yeah.
There's some sort of, like, I'm better than you sort of...
Yeah.
Well,
they're trying to fight against that.
A deep work of art makes you work to understand it, so it's asking more of the viewer, and it's also kind of it means that you can either work harder to understand it, or you can just, like, be, I don't know, smarter or whatever you want to call it.
I think,
so it's like if you're not smart enough to appreciate it, it's kind of an insult.
Yeah, people are saying like, "Oh, are you saying I'm dumb?" You know, and I think the best resistance I would have against that, and like I would just say, I'm not telling you have to care,
right?
You know, like there's this sort of mentality in pop media where people think that everyone has to like everything, and everything has to be for everyone, and like it shouldn't be. I would like it much more if things were not made for everyone. They were made to, because
like look at the AAA gaming scene. It caters to like the mass majority, and as a result, games are worse. They're more homogenous. It's not as interesting.
Like I mean, it's a thing. It's a matter of, I think that there's I like using the terms broad and niche, where a broad piece of entertainment is made to appeal to as many people as possible, but it will only appeal to them on a very shallow level.
Yeah.
Whereas when you make something niche that appeals to just like 5 people, but to those people it like means everything in the world, you know?
Yeah,
and
what's
like,
more valuable, you have to ask.
Right. So, I mean, I appreciate why broad media exists, and it can be a great way to get people into media in general and like help them to develop like the lexicon of whatever media they're looking at. You know, like if you go out to see a film because everyone's talking about it, it appeals to everyone, and then you learn how to appreciate film, then you can go deeper and find the stuff that just appeals to you, you know?
Yeah.
But like, I think people shame niche media for not being for them, and it's like, not everything has to be about you, dude.
Yeah,
like, you can like, everyone can like their own shit, you know? There's most of my favorite things are things that are not very widely appreciated, but they mean a lot to me, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying anyone's stupid for not liking stuff I
think that
like.
most people are just evil. And
I would use the word lazy.
Evil,
I think, in this case.
stupid, and lazy.
Is there a difference between evil and lazy?
You know, I don't know.
Well, I
Ben,
think
what were you
any
saying?
of those three things, evil, stupid, and lazy, can become each other by being to a great enough degree.
That's true. That's certainly true.
Let me interject the second. I think that a lot of people, when they say that something's deep, I mean, when we're talking about depth, and I think when we say that, we mean that a thing is thematically rich and complex and robust.
Right.
I think what a lot of people think that the word means is that it tackles a like very significant theme, some like heavy theme, like I don't know, God or whatever.
I don't know why people
like,
would assume that.
The nature of reality.
No, I think you're right, because there's a lot of people who like a lot of the people who get mad at me for like liking stuff like K-On! Well, people will say like it's just shallow, it's not deep, and like K-On! Has a lot of depth of characterization and a lot of depth of showing you the human experience. Like it tells you something about what people are and what we care about. But
Right.
yeah, I think most people, when they think depth, are definitely thinking like it should teach us something about world religion or psychology,
that's
or
an
like,
interesting
that's
child
part of the-
beating. You know,
That's part of the misunderstanding of Ava. People think that it's deep because of all the Christian whatever.
Right.
And then when they find out that stuff is not really that meaningful, they say, "Oh, well, it wasn't deep after all."
Right, when they're
But
ignoring
really,
the,
that's not where the depth is.
into Shinji's character and the way he grows and the whole, all that shit. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
So and also I think if a thing tries to tackle some, I don't know, quote unquote deep philosophical topic like, the nature of reality or something.
Yeah.
Like say I don't know, kind of like
Charlie
BioShock
Kaufman
Infinite.
shit, or
or something like that. And it fails, then I think that's worse in a way, and it looks worse
Yeah.
than trying to tackle something more humble like
Absolutely.
high school girls relationships like K-On! does.
Right.
And so I think it's more prone to people seeing it, being unimpressed with like what's being said,
Right.
and
Yeah.
being like, it's pretending to be deep, but it's not.
Basically, people are focusing on the wrong thing when they're checking for the too deep for you stat.
Like people aren't gonna call K-On! Even if K-On! Was a shit show.
Yeah.
People wouldn't call it too deep for you. Ironically, they wouldn't say it was pretentious because they didn't think that it was trying to be deep.
Yeah.
Because in their mind, deep means like heady philosophical whatever.
Right.
Dude,
But if
it's
like
not deep if a child doesn't get beaten.
Right. If Kaon, for example, like put in a thing that was like, this is the definitive analysis of high school girl relationships,
Right.
and then failed, like that would make it pretentious. That would make it,
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
it did
I'm
something
with
like,
you.
if it makes some great claim about truth and then fails, that's what I see. Well, okay. Let me. I want to move on to another topic here, guys. So I want to ask, what do you do when you encounter something that is too deep for you, and what that process is like for you? I think I probably
Never
know.
happens.
Never happens.
Never
of course, it never
happens.
happens.
Let's
Too
start with-
goddamn smart.
I watched Eraserhead not too
Too
long
cultured.
ago, and my first thought upon seeing it was like, okay, this is super pretentious. I mean, I just don't get it, but everyone loves it, so I'll give the benefit of the doubt and try to figure out what's going on here. And that is completely off the wall. There's these ridiculous things happening all the time. But when you step back and you look at it and you think about, I had to look all this shit up. I didn't figure it out. But everything that's happening really does make sense. And it's perfectly parsable once you know, like, the symbolism and you are able to understand what's going on.
I watched Eraserhead a couple years ago on YouTube, and
Yeah.
it was the kind of thing where like I enjoyed the overall experience, and I got like vaguely what it was about. Like
Yeah,
obviously it's about dealing with relationships and childbirth.
Right,
like
right.
it's about this awkward guy. He hooks up with this girl and everything's super fucking weird and awkward. And like you could easily look at it and say like, well, it's all just this is just normal shit, but it's weird. And it's like, yeah, but that's the point is that it's how you're perceiving it. Like
Right,
that's
right.
that's what art is. It's taking something and explaining it in a different way. He's explaining his anxiety by way of constant fucking metal noises in the background and like weird architecture and shit, and by having the baby be a literal monster.
Fucking monster,
you know?
yeah.
And it's like if you look at it and you go like,
beautiful
what does this
monster.
mean? And it's like it probably means that babies are fucking monsters, you know? It probably means that the idea of childbirth sickens and disturbs this man
And the
to
way
the
he
point
still
that he
is,
would murder
and he
his child.
still kind of likes it. Like he's got those warm feelings for it sometimes. Oh, it's good stuff. It's good
Right.
stuff. I like it.
And that's exactly what the director has said that he was going through at the time. He was
Yeah,
paranoid about having a kid, you know, and
So
that
like
movie
it
reflected
all
his
makes
paranoia.
perfect sense if you just look into it a little bit. And so for that reason, like one person's definitely going to call that too deep for you, but I think a more informed person would say no. I get it.
I'd like us
there's-
each to tell a story about this. So Hippo, I want to hear you tell well, you can say what you were going to say first, but
Well, I was just gonna say there's I think there's like a difference between getting like a piece of media and understanding the depth, because when I come across something that turns out is too deep for me, like Ava, I didn't understand it a lot, but I still enjoyed it and I got it, but I couldn't ever tell anybody. I couldn't like if somebody asked me,
Elucidate
I couldn't explain. I didn't know what I liked about it, but I knew that I got it, kind of. And that's how it usually is with like say Gurren Lagann had lots more like in the subtext than I would ever have thought
Dude,
about.
nobody gets Gurren Lagann the first time they see it. Nobody.
And and it's like
Well, nobody gets
I
rosy
really
the
like
first
it.
time.
I really liked it, but like you explaining it in your video made it like
Yeah.
extra cool.
Yeah, and that's what I was hoping to do,
So-
to just lay it on the line for people. Yeah.
So when like something's too deep, as long as it's got other elements to it, then
Yeah.
it's great.
I think that experience you're describing happens a lot, both with Ava and especially with the show Serial Experiments Lane,
Oh,
which is
yeah,
an
yeah.
anime series that like
Totally.
most people say that they have to watch it 4 times before it clicks with them.
I've seen it twice and have no idea what's going on.
It was funny though
You're
because
halfway there.
All right.
it was one of those things for me because I watched it for the first time, like all the way through for the first time when I was 14. And like everyone had said that it takes them 4 tries and they don't get it, and then I watched it and I felt like I got it. Like I was like,
Yeah,
okay, I
yeah.
get the point. I get what they're going for here, you know. But like a lot of the specifics didn't make sense to me.
Sure.
And then it was only like, you know, like 5 years later, I watched it again and I was like, I didn't get this before. Like
Right,
I
yeah.
thought I did, but I clearly didn't because I get it now. And what I feel now is totally different from what I felt then, you know? And eventually I made a series of videos about it. But, like, yeah, you know, I think that effort, that willingness that you talked about, Hippo, I made a video about this called Art is All About Pressing Your Buttons, about, like, why I will nitpick a show that I don't like so hard, but with a show I do like, I'll ignore so many of its flaws. And it's because, like, well, there's like a give and take between you and the art, right? Like a show that I can't stand is Ergo Proxy,
Yeah.
which is an anime series that's really it's super too deep for you. You know, I've literally called it pretentious in the past. I've said it was the only anime I was willing to call pretentious because it's like way up its own ass with like symbolism and rhetoric and stuff that doesn't really seem like it means much in the context of the show. It just seems like it's there for the sake of having depth, you
Right,
know, having
right.
deep shit. But like, you know, I've had people tell me that Ergo Proxy, that there are meanings to it, that there's all this stuff that I didn't get, and it's like, on the one hand, I don't disbelieve those people, but I don't want to find out. Like, I hate the show. I don't want to sit there and watch it again until I
Right,
get
right.
it. You know, like, I'm willing to accept that maybe there is actual depth there, or that it makes sense if you think about it, but, like, I don't want to. Whereas other shows,
it's kind of like,
you know,
a show. It needs like a balance of shallowness and depth for it to be really good.
I don't think it has to have shallowness. I just think it has to
often
press your
does,
buttons
for
right,
me,
you know?
anyway.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
it's like Digi said, like
I mean,
he's
it has
he's
to have some surface appeal.
Yeah.
that's true. Digi's
Well, like,
not
people-
gonna hold like his audience hostage and say like you have to get this, and in the same respect,
Yeah.
he doesn't. You know, you shouldn't say Digi has to get everything too. It's the same shit.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Ergo Proxy, a lot of people like the show because it has like a really good atmosphere, has beautiful artwork, you know, like interesting characters and stuff. So
and
like,
the best ending theme song in all of anime, baby.
yeah, it's got a
Paranoid Android, dude.
Yeah, Paranoid Android by I
Radiohead.
almost for both song and band I was thinking OK Computer, which
Yeah,
is the name of the
I
album.
don't blame it.
But like, yeah, Ergo Proxy has a lot of things that will draw certain people in, and they certainly drew me in, but then there was so much that I didn't like that in the end I didn't care about it. Whereas there
Yeah.
are shows that like that I think have very little surface appeal, but I still like them, like 12-ounce Mouse,
Sure, yeah.
which is just
yeah.
ugly as sin and weird and slow and it doesn't make any sense. But it does have like a super deep meta narrative behind it. Like if you watch the whole show,
I never saw that.
If you watch the whole show, you'll quickly grasp that there's like a whole plot behind it. Like
Sure,
it is
sure.
actually a narrative show. It just doesn't make a lot of sense, and it was unfinished. So like a lot of the
I don't know
answers
whether,
have
like,
never come
12-ounce
out.
Mouse doesn't have a surface appeal because I liked it immediately. As soon
Well,
as
I
you
mean,
showed it
okay,
to
but
me.
not
I would
everybody
say
will, you
I would
know?
say it has some surface appeal in that it has like great voice acting, like phenomenal
Yeah.
voice acting, and it's funny and weird, you know. But like, I don't expect anyone to look at that show and immediately be like, oh yeah, I totally want to find the hidden depth in fucking 12-ounce Mouse.
Right,
Like most
right.
people
I
are
don't know,
gonna
I
look
kinda-
at it
I
and go,
kinda think-
what is that, you know?
I kind of think you might be driven to do that by just by how like uncommonly terrible its presentation
12-ounce
is. I think
Mouse
maybe
might have been
the
too deep
terribleness
for me.
of the presentation is part
Well,
of the
sure,
surface
but
appeal.
that's kind of also a thing with I don't know, like what's that one? Perfect Hair Forever. It kind of reminds me of that, and I don't think there's a lot of depth in Perfect Hair Forever. I think it
No.
really is just the
Not
surface
quite
stuff.
the same.
No, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
can be a form of appeal is lack of appeal.
Oh, sure.
If you know what I'm
Alright.
saying.
Yeah. I agree, and I think that would be why some people might get into perfect. I mean, like, even without depth, like, sometimes people like shit just because it's so ugly and out there, you know?
Sure.
But,
sure.
like, I would posit that, like, if I were to make, like, some just shitty... Like, let's say I've tried to make Jesse Wood's Horseshoe Saga, but I had none of the talent. I'm just a weird, kind of ugly basement dweller who doesn't know how to film, whose audio is garbage. Like not garbage in a way that's, like, endearing, but garbage in a way that's too harsh for you to listen to.
I don't know which
right.
parts
You know?
of that were about me and which parts were about a guy with no talent.
No, I'm saying this is an alternate universe version of you who has none of the things that you have going for you. Like, you know how to make a great set. You have amazing charisma and camera presence. You know how to write
his great
a
set,
fucking
one
tight
piece
script.
of paper with a crayon word scrawled on it, taped to his bookshelf.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
It's awesome.
It is awesome. I totally
it
agree.
everything feels right in a Jesse Wood video. You know, like, the audio's not necessarily perfect, but it works, and the video quality is not necessarily perfect, but it works. He doesn't have to be fucking MKBHD for his videos to make sense, you know. But, like, if I was making the same kind of story and it was every bit as deep to me as the Horseshoe Saga, but the writing was like, do any of you guys watch that, what's his name, Roger Vanderweed guy that Devu is, like, a fan of?
No.
Where his writing is, like, completely incomprehensible, even though, like, the points he's making are great and make sense, but you have to parse this unbelievably difficult In fact, he's basically who I'm talking about now that I think about it, because his videos are, like, weird, terrible, the audio's way too harsh, you can't understand what he's saying, the videos are, like, ugly, weird flash animations of Sonic characters, he's talking about bullshit and insanity. Yeah, that
The guy who does, like, Sonic Analyze.
Yeah.
With the two cartoon guys talking. Oh, it's so hideous.
Yeah,
I
and, like,
hate it.
the
I hate
presentation
it.
of them is so bad that I can't get into it. But, like, Devu, like, has gotten into it, and he's even said, he was like, if I found him today with the standards I have now for, like, presentation,
Right.
there's no way I'd get into it. But, like, because I already am into it and I know, like, what's going on in the narrative, then it's, you know, he appreciates it. And, like, if someone tried to do the Horseshoe Saga with even less skills than Roger Vanderweed, then, like, no one would watch it. You know, no one would appreciate it, but that doesn't mean it's not deep or that it's not good.
And not to
you
criticize Jesse's presentation, but I think that probably is, at least some portion of that is why it hasn't reached as big an audience as, you know, we all wish that it would.
I think at a certain point, my continuity became
It's too much for your
for
average
many
person.
people.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
true.
like-
That's certainly true.
Like, a lot of the Horseshoe reviews, if you were just going into them as single reviews, would be fucking horrible to watch.
Well, I mean, things would be confusing, so some things certainly would be.
You know, when you launched Serialized, Victor, my brother, was, like, he was confused because he thought Manchild Incorporated, when you put out the video that was announcing that Manchild Incorporated was now a thing, he thought that was the Endless Jest channel and that you just changed it again. So he was like, he literally got mad, like, after the first Serialized, and he was like, he was like, I don't see the point of it. He was like, who is this for? And I said, well, it's for, like, the pony fans who've gone on, and I was like, it's a new series without the continuity. And he said, but Colt Corona was right there in the first episode, so this doesn't make any sense.
That's true.
And I was like, well, I guess. And then I explained to him that, well, it's not Endless Jest. It's the Pony channel that's transformed. And so it's part of the same narrative in a way.
They
you know?
really are all interrelated, though. And
I have
God,
made-
that's like the best. I love that.
I
Colt
have
Corona,
made
you can hear him in the
no more
background.
continuity vow so many times.
I know
and
you have.
failed to
you
uphold
can't
it.
let go. You can't
I don't
let
think
go.
I don't think you should let it go, though. Like, I don't think the
yeah,
problem
that's
with your
where I'm
show
at
is
now.
Well,
like-
let's separate, you know, as a piece of art, I do not want Jesse to ever stop doing what he's doing, but, like, for his own sake, it probably would be
Well,
best.
When
I
I
don't think
finished
it's-
Horseshoe Finale, my immediate thought when I started Endless Jest was, okay, new beginning. It's new rules. I'm gonna all the stuff that I did. I'm gonna do it differently. No continuity, no reviews, and now it's like 6 months later. And now I'm just like, you know what? Actually, a lot of that stuff is pretty cool. So I'm just gonna. It's taking
the only.
I gotta take the stuff that I like about me, discard the stuff that I don't like about me, but still keep the cool stuff.
But you know, some of the things you like about yourself aren't necessarily marketable, and I think that's true of all of us.
Well,
I think we need a fucking
that's why I've
sitcom
gone
about cold
corporate.
Corona.
I would love a Cold Corona sitcom. That would be great.
Man, I have such plans in store for Cult Corona, guys.
I'm excited.
I think
The
what-
serialized saga is going to places that no one could anticipate.
That sounds amazing.
I think to get back to the whole art being about pressing your buttons shit
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Like here's the thing about like Jesse's content. Like if even a show like 12 Ounce Mouse, which has no obvious appeal, right? The reason people got into that show is that it was on television.
Yeah, right.
It was literally in a block where people were going to watch anyways.
That's
so
why
like,
I watched it.
So like even if 100,000 people saw it and 99% of them didn't understand it at all, 1,000 people are still there who are totally gonna love it and get invested in the story and understand it in the long run. And I think the problem with trying to do this on YouTube is that there's no real platform by which like you know, it's one thing if I make a video saying, hey, you should all watch Jesse because he's basically just like me, then people who are looking for something just like me will go watch Jesse and they won't get it. But
Yeah.
but like there's no like TV channel that is full of things that are kind of like Jesse that he can be broadcasted on and then people find out about it. What he needs really is just a foot in the door.
That's
like
true.
all he needs is there to be one video that was attractive enough and got big enough that people get curious about it and then they are along for the ride.
Hey, you know, the
yeah.
Bats video has over 1 million views
Oh,
now.
my God.
2 million.
2
almost
million?
3.
2 million worthless views that haven't translated to anything. The video was blocked for monetization within the first day. I've seen no revenue from it, and nobody
God.
subscribed
Man, you
because
should have
of it.
contested that. You'd
It's-
have at least $2,000 by now.
I
You'd
don't
think
think
that
I
the
even-
people who like this, you know, My Little Pony review would want to see more like it, because there's plenty more like it. Whatever.
And the worst part is that if I took down the Bats review and reposted it, it wouldn't get views anymore.
No, it's in the YouTube feed
Yeah,
cycle
whatever
somehow.
views
Who
it's
knows?
getting is due to the initial momentum from when it was
Yeah.
released. Oh,
Yep.
but anyways, forget it.
No, go on. I think we're running low on
Well, not to
on
just
stuff.
not to just talk about myself, which would be the most pretentious and too deep.
That'll be next week's topic. Yeah.
Oh
But I
God, we
was-
could go on for fucking hours.
I like,
Jesse, yeah,
I'm
that's true.
surprised. I could go on for this topic for quite a bit longer, but I was talking like fucking a while ago when I first mentioned Horseshoe Finale and how for a long time I wasn't sure how I could articulate it to people if anyone asked me.
Right.
But I finally figured out. I finally got the sentence in my head that I can give to people now if they ever ask
Great.
about what it's about. And
Let's hear it.
the simplest way that I can explain it is that it's a retelling of A Christmas Carol. And that's
I
it.
see.
That's pretty good.
It's a-
That's
it-
pretty
Wait,
good.
what's a retelling of A Christmas Carol?
Horseshoe Finale, or the Horseshoe It's a story about a guy who, you know, turns into this fucking a big bastard, but then he's confronted with his past and his decisions and where he is now, and he has to come out of it. And that's the main
God,
theme.
I
behind
really
it.
don't. I really don't understand the Horseshoe Saga, do I?
I think you did fine in the Horseshoe Finale explaining it as a wrestling narrative. Like,
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think that again, like the art is the explanation, but you know, I was saying that I was struggling for a long time to come up with like a sentence
right. He
that I
wants
can
an
throw
elevator
at
pitch.
people.
Yeah.
what did I call it in my video?
So-
The
so-
top 10, like just the biggest cum
Yeah,
ever,
so
or something
now
like that.
that's just
The
going to be
biggest
my
end
that's
zone
going to be my
dance, I
go-to
think.
Yes.
to throw at people if anyone asks
The world's
me.
largest end zone dance the world's largest end zone dance after the series of touchdowns that was the Horseshoe
Yes,
Saga.
that's right. A series of disgustingly well-made MLP reviews. Blah blah blah. Okay.
Yes.
Does anybody else want to bring up an example of something that was a too deep for them experience before we wrap things up? Because I know, did you mention that before?
yeah.
You got a bunch of those. Gib, did you? Oh, I forget if you had one or not.
I
or-
could.
Oh, did you? Yeah, if you want to do one. Yeah.
Well, I could, but I want to hear Jesse first
Oh,
because we didn't get to
okay.
him.
That's true.
So
Hippo did one, I think.
there's one creator who I specifically view as a pretentious fucking knobsucker, and I hate all of his work. He's
Hey, don't say that about Max Landis. He's a good man.
he's the director Lars Van Trier.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
I hate him. He's such
Somehow
a.
I should have known.
I've seen all of his movies.
Wow.
When he releases a new movie, I make a point to see it just so I can hate it. or just so
man.
that I can see how much I hate it. He's
Fun
fucking-
fact, I only ever saw the first 5 minutes of Antichrist. My friends were watching it on Netflix, and I looked at it and I went, "This is fucking pretentious,"
Oh my
and I
God.
left the room.
His movies are okay. He makes exploitation movies. That's what they are. They're
Yeah.
but rather than just say like a Quentin Tarantino would say, I make exploitation movies. Isn't it great?
Yeah.
He's got to fucking put it in black and white with piano music. He's got to make it 3 hours long and try to convince people that it's like the most mind-blowingly like complex thing ever. And people fall for it. This is the
They do.
greatest director of all time. He's amazing. And it's just fucking schlock. It's just Willem Dafoe's penis getting stabbed with a screw. It's
Yeah.
just fucking
Oh, Jesus.
fucking
What the
Mary
fuck?
Jane laying in a bathtub naked being depressed for 4 fucking hours.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I hate him. His
Oh,
movies are
okay.
so fucking droll and boring.
No. Droll means interesting. Droll means cool.
Droll does not mean cool. Does droll
Dude,
mean cool?
Yeah, droll means funny.
We've had this fight before. Me and Ben had a huge fight about it once. Turns out I was right.
Well,
Droll
I
means
guess
funny.
droll is too deep for me.
La vie est drôle. That's,
Yeah.
life is droll. That's what, what's her name from
okay.
fucking Kill La Kill always says. I mean, that's
N-
not where it
Nui? I
comes
don't know.
from.
Kill La
but-
Kill
no,
is a
the
thing
fucking
that
Ragia.
people,
Oh, yeah.
I think, unfairly deem as like not deep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, when I
Kill La
watched
Kill
Kill La
is
Kill for the first
legitimately
time-
too deep for most of the people
I
who
walked
watch
away
it.
from Kill La Kill after seeing it, feeling like I had seen something that was very complex and had a lot to say. And then I go online and everyone's like, not
it's just tits.
Yeah, not surprisingly, but
You
still
know,
disappointingly.
There's a chart, dude. This made me so mad because there's this chart that's like an intro to anime chart, like
yeah,
like
this
an
one.
intro to recommendations, and like the guy clearly like knows his stuff in terms of what shows are good. It's a great recommendation chart, but there's a part where it's in action shows, and it's like I think it goes to like Gurren Lagann or something, and then it's like, do you want this but with no depth?
Oh,
then it
fuck
goes
you.
to Kill La
Ah,
Kill.
get outta
And
here,
I was
you-
like, really? Like, dude, Kill La Kill, and again, legit, too deep for everyone who watches it, you know, and I know that the stuff that's in it is there on purpose because I've heard the creators talk about it, and I know their work, and I know that they fucking know shit, you know.
It's
But,
because
like,
people. It's going back to people thinking that depth is equated to seriousness, or
Yeah. Or,
Right.
or
It's-
like big world things.
like
That's really
like
that's
another
really
one
weird to me. That
is sorry, Ben, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's really weird that people think that about Kill La Kill, because when I watched it, I felt like it was really being shoved in my face that this is a subversion of typical anime nudity.
right, well, that's
know what
not
I mean?
even like
That's not even what I
that's
took
not
out
even
of it.
the
That was
most
so
part.
impressive to me.
Yeah,
No,
like-
no. Well, I mean, I think people
I get
probably
what you
write it
mean.
off because of the nakedness and whatever, and
Right.
like just the balls to the wall action and the scantily clad
Some
girls.
people
but, like,
do,
it's
I'm
so
sure.
it's so clearly saying something about that stuff.
Like, when Kill La Kill started, like, when episode 3 rolled around, and it was, like, episode 3 is literally just stating a message about the fact that, you know, she's trying to use nudity as power, and, like, in the empowerment of being naked without shame. Like, it's literally a conversation about that. And then, like, you know, there's been a lot of debate over whether the way the show handles that is meaningful or not, or if it's
Sure.
really... And, like, yeah, that debate's fine, but then when people, like... And that is deep, but there's, like, a lot more throughout the show, you know? And I appreciate not getting it, because when I watched the show, my impression was, I feel like there's something here I'm not getting. And me and Nate did a
definitely felt
podcast
like that.
Yeah.
where me and Nate both said, like, there's definitely something here we're not getting, because we were both confused
and
afterwards.
I did no
you know?
further research, so at this point I still am happy to admit
Yeah.
I do not fucking
Whereas-
get Kill La Kill.
Whereas I then, like, you know, read some shit that other people were saying about
Yeah,
it, and then
yeah.
went to this panel where this guy, like, broke it all down in, like, extensive detail, and I'm like, holy shit, like, yeah, this all makes perfect sense, and it all totally is intentional, and it's definitely super deep, you know, like, this is some of the most interesting stuff that's happened
think
in a
people
TV series
definitely
ever.
should remove
you know?
themselves from the mindset that something that's fun or sillier, you know, can't
Yeah.
also be complex. Like another
Right.
example is Space Dandy.
Yeah.
I fucking Space Dandy is an amazingly deep show. All of Watanabe's show, Cowboy Bebop, you could say
Sure,
that
sure.
about. It's
Right.
a fucking it's Cowboy
And
Bebop.
Everyone
is
would
this-
say Bebop is deep.
well,
And that's the thing, though. That's why everyone would say Bebop is deep, because
Yeah.
Bebop has moments where the camera
he's
pans
so sad,
slowly, and
like,
he
you
looks
look at his
sad.
eyes.
and-
The
yeah.
one's different colors because it sees the future, the other sees the past. Holy
Yeah,
shit!
they eat the bell peppers but
Yeah,
without the
yeah.
beef. It's bell peppers and beef without the beef. It's a deep. The
Oh my
poverty
god!
sinks in. You
when,
know?
when Faye then the other girls leave and the eggs are in their bowl and they start eating those eggs instead of just their own. Oh
hey,
my
that's
god.
my analysis. I did that one.
That's a great scene. Holy shit, I love that scene so much. But yeah,
But yeah, like Space Dandy is doing a lot of the same things, just with different characters who aren't obviously like relatable
and with
or
a layer
deep
of
in
more
the same
silliness
way.
and stuff, which in
Right.
no way detracts from the messages underneath it all. It just
And I would also say that it's a matter of like Space Dandy starts on the wrong foot. The first episode kind of sucks, and the first episode of Cowboy Bebop is fucking amazing. So people start up Cowboy Bebop and they go, "This is gonna be the most mind-blowing shit I ever see in my life," and they're proven right. And people start Space Dandy and they go, "This just seems stupid."
I remember seeing the trailers for Space Dandy and being really excited, like, wow, it's going to be like a fun, like a sci-fi throwback and like a Flash Gordon thing or a Star Trek. I watched the first episode and I just didn't care to watch any more for like months. Until I finally picked it back up and then cool shit started happening. I'm like,
I probably would have, if not for the fact that it was a Watanabe show, then I might not have watched all of it.
That was my whole reason to be interested, and I still haven't watched it, but I really need to.
But it definitely has depth as it goes along. And I actually think that more people who watch all of Space Dandy appreciate its depth, possibly because so many fewer people have watched all of Space Dandy compared to Kill La Kill. But, like, I think
even
that...
is that? I don't even understand. They seem both equally hyped to me.
Well,
people were all over Space Dandy's dick when it was coming out.
Space Dandy's a
heard
throwback.
Of Space Dandy before it was out.
Yeah, Space Dandy was very throwbacky. It was very old
Kill
school.
Kill, I heard about plenty.
Kill La Kill has tits everywhere.
Yeah,
like, that's
it
the
does.
main reason that it's so popular, is that it has fucking tits everywhere.
Well, that's
like,
a lame reason.
so does
People should be
Space
ashamed.
Dandy.
Well, they don't shove in your face in like the promo
it's
art.
not
I guess
the main characters and like everyone in the show. Like I think with Kill La Kill, it was a mixture of like being a good show and also being a show where there's tits everywhere. Because everyone likes shows where there's tits everywhere, but no one wants to admit it. And if the shows are usually bad.
Bunch of fucking fags,
so like,
dude. Fucking...
You know, like a show like High School DxD is really popular because it's like just good enough that people can handle it. But then everyone's apologizes for it. Nobody wants to admit that they're
assholes. Don't they know the literal
DxD,
best thing about that show is all the tits they shove in your face, and especially how the main character is completely unashamed. He just does not give a fuck, and he's my favorite main character I've seen in 10 years. He's amazing. He's my hero.
I think there's a lot of people who do apologize for their Kill La Kill affection, and I see a lot of apologies for it. But I think there's also a lot more people who can watch it and not feel that they have to. Like they can say, well, it's a really good, and they'll of course they'll explain it as, oh, it's just good. You can turn your brain off sometimes. And shows are good.
There's nothing that offends me more than language like that. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of MLP. It's, people are just like, it's about, what even is this? It's nothing, there's nothing good to it. It's My Little Pony. There's no way it could be good. They just write it off because of this superficial layer and do absolutely no research to find out whether or not that's even close to true.
Or even worse, they do research and come across the fandom, and that makes them even more hesitant.
That's,
I think, I've said this before, like, I think, and like with ponies, we used to say, anytime we criticize the show, people would always say it's a kid's show, and then we'd say, why are you watching it? If it's just a kid's show that's not good, why are you watching it? Yeah, because you shouldn't be.
Because I'm a
if that was the case.
pedophile is the only answer you can give to that.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So my extension of that to Too Deep for You is if people say like, well, sometimes you can just turn your brain off and enjoy something, and I would say, well, the demo quote, oh my god, if you just ignore the bad parts and only talk about the good parts, everything is a 10 out of 10. Guys, it's okay. You can watch anything. It's all amazing. He
nailed it. He nailed it.
Yeah, like if you can turn if criticizing something is so wrong, or if it's so if all art is just supposed to be fun and it's not supposed to be deep, then what's the difference? Just watch everything. It shouldn't matter anymore. Fucking just go for it, And depth can come in so many different forms that it could just be like, even if the only reason you watch a show is that the character designs are good, the fact that the character designs are good is kind of deep, because like, why are they good? Like, what makes them good to you? Why does your brain interpret them that way?
Artistic, like all that, like depth can come accidentally too, which was like the thesis of my Dragon Ball Z video a while back.
Yeah,
right.
Like
right.
Akira
The
Toriyama,
accidental profundity.
he literally just wanted people punching each other and going on adventures. But he ended up making this, all-encompassing, like, this saga of this character's entire life and his children, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, depth can totally be accidental, and I think that it probably should be. I think if you set out to make something deep, you're probably not making the thing you're trying to make.
Well, I think
you're probably going to fail.
I think you can. I don't think
it depends who's doing it.
I don't think depth has to be incidental so much as that like you can have an idea and know it's deep and make it. Like, obviously, Undertale, like, Toby Fox knew it was deep. There's no way he thought that it was just some shallow, like, whatever. It's just, I just made this thing that comments on the nature of the medium and has everything to do with everything.
People would think it was deep and knew it had qualities, but wasn't prepared to say, the impact it might have.
I don't think that he set out, like, I think what Ben's really trying to say is, I don't think you should set out to make something deep, but if the idea you have is deep, then, like, whatever, run with it, like, he surely knew it was deep, but I don't think his goal was make deep game. It was...
I agree.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Yeah. Well, does anybody want to give any more examples before we wrap it up? Did Ben, do you want to give an example of a thing?
No.
All right.
Wait, what about that comic I read recently that was really great? The Vapors.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone heard about that?
I don't know.
Deep,
is that
dude.
something that I can support on Patreon? But by any chance?
Oh, as a matter of fact, it is, Jesse.
Could we get
Just
those
go to
details?
patreon.com/Ben Saint. Let's throw a couple of bucks the creator's way. He's a real deep guy. He really deserves it.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm gonna go do that before this video ends. I gotta run I gotta run, not walk, to that Patreon page.
I'll to get back to the topic at hand,
Okay.
I run into stuff all the time that is, like, too deep for me. And, it's always, like, that battle of, like, on the one hand, in fact, I would say all video games are too deep for me. All of them.
Okay. All video games, okay.
All video games, because, or how about this?
I like
all
that
video
commitment.
games, no, you know what? All of them.
All right, good.
Because, like, okay, most of the games I beat in the last 15 years were, like, 6-hour action games, right?
Sure.
Games like Devil May Cry or fucking Vanquish or, like, Platinum games and stuff like that. But I always just played through them on normal mode in 6 hours and then never again.
Yeah.
And, like,
It's not really what you're supposed to do with those.
I know that there's way more depth to those games if you replay them and get to the highest, because most of those games, like, are made really with the highest difficulty in mind.
Right.
Like, if you play something like Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, like, or Metal Gear Solid 3, like,
Yep.
or any of the Metal Gear Solid games, but, like, 3 most especially, just, like, the level of complexity and depth of high-level play is so much different from low-level play that it's basically another game.
That's a great example of that, about, what you can be forced to do by the difficulty increasing, and how it makes you be creative and explore the game more.
Yeah, and I think that, like, most mainstream critics of games engage about 50% of the depth of the game. Or maybe closer to 75%, depending on the game,
you're being
right?
super generous,
well, that's the thing, though. I think the reason that a game like BioShock Infinite gets so much critical praise is that you don't have to play it again to appreciate the depth.
Point. That is a
You
great
do not
point.
have to play BioShock Infinite twice at all.
And
You
you
can play it
know
on.
the
I
reviewers
played it on the
fucking
highest
love that.
difficulty because it's so fucking easy.
Oh, no, it's
and the
terrible.
combat is so terrible that I played it on, like, the highest difficulty and fucking had a breeze with it. And there was nothing else that I felt like I was missing. There was
true.
nothing I felt. I know there are, like, there's little recursive hints and stuff. Like, maybe you'll get a little more out of the story if you play it a second time. But I don't think it's anywhere near the level of Metal Gear Solid 3, where you would have to completely rethink the systems of the game to play it on the highest difficulty compared to normal mode.
And that's why reviews are oftentimes not really very great ways to judge the content of a game. That's why you need someone like Super Bunny Hop, who will beat that motherfucker up. He will smash the pussy of that shit until it no longer works, to tell you how it works.
It's interesting, though, that you bring that up, that a game could be reviewed well because it is shallow enough to be
Yeah,
easily
Whatever
I think
digested.
most
appeals
of
to
them
the
are.
reviewing circle is what they're going to advocate for.
And yeah,
It plays well in the format that reviewers play
Right.
games.
yes,
Right.
which is usually at like a hotel somewhere because they've been invited to a review
Yeah,
event.
or a fucking
and,
corporate
you know,
event where they're surrounded
Yeah.
by staffers telling them how to play the game. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
And I love Bunny Hop especially because, and I was saying this about the Fallout 4 review, and we had a little debate about this, maybe even in the Best Game Ever podcast, where
Yeah.
I was saying how like he said in the review like, yeah, this game is not that good right now, but like
yeah, right.
the
right.
depth of this game will really be explored once people start modding it and turning it into something different, and then we'll suddenly have probably a much better game on our hands, you know?
That's why.
And
yeah.
I wish more reviewers would write like that. Would write like, you know, here's like this review is based on I played this many hours of the game. This is how, like, all those fucking Phantom Pain reviews.
Yeah,
They gave the game a
yeah.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
And it's like, did you really make it? Did you really play the fucking, like, what, 90 hours it takes to beat this fucker? Because I don't think you did, you know? I think you probably made it to the first ending and went, okay, it was 10 out of 10. I didn't get bored with it because I only played it for fucking 3 days and I didn't
Yeah.
realize how much, like, you know, bullshit there is. But then, again, if you do go beyond the impossible, like Bunny Hop did, beat it to 100% completion, and found all kinds of unique things that even people
yeah.
who played it to the end, you know, who people like you guys who were just like, oh, fuck this game, it
Once
sucks,
I beat
you know,
the
like,
story, that was it. I was done.
right. He found all kinds of other shit to like about it and came out with a sort of, you know, and I'm not saying like reviewers shouldn't review games on that level of engagement, because I think most people play games on that level of engagement. Games are too deep for most people. Most people won't go
you
all
know,
the way through.
in the same
most
way we
people
need
never see
different-
Ash Lake in Dark Souls.
That's true.
You know?
In the same way we need different games for different people, we kind of need different reviewers for different people.
Yes.
And that's why George
I-
Weidman is so valuable. Not only is he's a real modern journalist. He does it the way that
Yeah.
technology allows it to be done now, much better than going to one of these fucking events and like playing it for 10 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
And like he plays it in the way that I play games personally. In fact, he goes beyond what I need. But
Yeah.
that thoroughness is so welcome and so rich, and
I would
it's
love
great.
it if every reviewer, like, if where they have all those stats on like GameStop
Yeah,
or whatever,
yeah.
GameSpot, where they have like the little like notations on the side, or if it said like how many hours I spent playing it, how many, you know, like how
right.
many times I beat it, what difficulty I beat it on,
Because those are so
you know,
important.
right?
Super
like,
relevant.
and I love Yahtzee, who I respect him so much because he does that. In all of his review, he'll tell you, like, I only play games on Medium.
Yeah,
I expect
yeah.
them to be that. I only play them for a week because I have to do a show. You know, like, if I return to a game, I'll probably talk about it on a different show, not my review show. He's admitted when he played Final Fantasy 13, he was like, this game's not for me. I played 10 hours and I'm fucking sick of it. I'm too busy. Half
That
of his
game
review
wasn't
was
for
about how
anyone.
he was opening up the mana bar and therefore he couldn't find time to play the game, you know, because he didn't care about it.
But
like,
yeah, that says something about it.
yeah, like that's and like for me, those reviews are perfect because that's how I play most games, you know.
Yeah,
And I go,
yeah.
okay, Yahtzee, I'm with you. I also don't want to spend 30 hours waiting for this game to get good, you know. But
It
like,
doesn't get good after 30 hours, let's be clear, but yeah.
but like, you know, for other people, there are and you know, I think those reviews are out there. They're just very decentralized.
Right,
like
right.
GameStop is not, or GameSpot or whatever, is not the ones making those reviews. If you go to like RP Gamer or something, you'll find the guy who writes that review. You know, I think it's just a matter of like people should go out and find the reviews that actually reflect the way they play games.
Right,
Um,
right.
We've gotten off topic.
We're
at this
completely
point. My
off
point is
topic
that
now.
video games are too deep for me because I never beat them to that level of completion.
Right. Okay, that covers everybody. We've all told a story. This was an excellent discussion. This was everything I hoped it would be about the subject.
Yeah.
Anybody have any other last thoughts they want to put in? No?
My dick.
I think we all were thinking that, and you
Yeah.
were the only one who said.
I
it
mean,
first.
let's be, at the end of the day, what's the thing that's too deep for anyone? My dick. It's way too fucking deep. All
My
right.
dick runs deep, so deep, put her ass to sleep.
Cutting off that blood flow in all the right ways. All right, guys. I guess that's it. Thanks for watching, everybody.
And follow me on Twitter at It's Also Ugly, SaintComics.com.
You know, it's like we've got- it's like
Patreon.
we've
yeah,
got
why
a
don't you just look at the fucking description where
Yeah.
we've linked everything?
It's like we've got a spam
yeah.
bot in the conversation in all the best ways. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be back next week with another one. Leave your comments in the description. Leave any suggestions you got for next week. Everybody say bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.